when I first got here, I was told right away by some of the women to watch out for a certain prisoner. And I said, wait, we have men here? And they're like, yeah, we do, but you're not allowed to call them men, and you have to use she, her pronouns.
Are you telling me, Heather, I can just deviously say, hey, I'm a woman all of a sudden, and I'm here?
Yes, you could.
Will you do your best to ensure that trans women are put in prison, or prison more appropriate to their gender identity?
The answer is yes.
The next day it was policy. And
unbelievable.
That is how much consideration women got.
It's sorry to see real women like yourselves throw women inmates under the bus because of males pretending to be females.
I will not call him a woman because he was not. How he victimized women throughout the compound over that period of time absolutely floored me.
We really should be able to define a woman in this country. And sure, let trans people live the way they want. However, you can't just throw women under the bus.
Faking transgender just to be where you want to be, where your victim pool is wrong.
I, right now, identify as a female, and if I'm found guilty, I want to be incarcerated in that building. Is that okay?
Sir, you have the right to do whatever you want.
David Menzies for Rebel News here in Kitchener, Ontario. Well, folks, I'm standing outside the Grand Valley Institution for Women. This is a female prison, and that is the reason du jour for our visit here today. As you can see behind me, a group of demonstrators have gathered, and what it is that they're protesting is an absolutely egregious thing that is occurring in the penal system in Canada, namely going back to 2017, the Justin Trudeau Liberals and Correctional Service of Canada thought it was a perfectly good idea to have male prisoners who identify as females be incarcerated in female institutions. And we are talking murderers, we are talking rapists, we are talking pedophiles. And naturally, I know what you're thinking, what could possibly go wrong? Well, a lot can go wrong. A lot of the women who are here, that is to say the real biological women, are at risk to their personal health and safety because they are in the same institution as biological males. This is crazy. And so it is that this group who is assembling here today is trying to create awareness of a truly egregious situation. Let's hear what it is they have to say of radical transgenderism run amok.
I don't even know how to... I lived with one of them in my unit for about 6 months. And to witness how I will not call him a woman because he was not. How he victimized women throughout the compound over that period of time absolutely floored me, disturbed me. He sexually assaulted a woman in my house when we were there.
And when I first got here, I was told right away by some of the women to watch out for a certain prisoner. And I said, wait, we have men here? And they're like, yeah, we do, but you're not allowed to call them men, and you have to use she, her pronouns. That was the beginning of when I realized that we were supposed to lie and go along with things and just remain silent. That same person was sexually harassing multiple women on compound. I experienced it. Several of my friends experienced it. And we all just stayed quiet about it because we thought that because we were criminalized and in prison, that it was our fault for being here in the first place and we deserved what happened to us.
Well, I'm with Heather Mason of Canadian Women Sex-Based Rights. And Heather, I mean, this is an incredible issue, and I wonder how many people in the general population know that this is a thing, that a male offender can simply say he identifies as being a woman and suddenly he's in a female correctional facility such as this here, Grand Valley Institution for Women. How did this become a thing in the first place?
I don't think a lot of people are really aware of what's going on, but so Ontario passed their own human rights code in 2012, and the provincial jails started implementing it in 2015, and that's when I first ran across like sex offenders that were not transitioned who were trying to get into the women's prisons. And then federally, with Bill C-16 in 2017, they added gender identity and self-expression, and then they started transferring in. So they no longer required surgery, because before the bill was passed, they had to have surgery in order to be in our institution.
You know, it sounds like public safety is no longer the underlying factor anymore. It's we don't want any hurt feelings. Even if you are, God forbid, a murderer or a rapist, we don't want to hurt your feelings if you identify as a female. But hasn't anyone in the Correctional Service of Canada figured out that there might be men gaming the system, which is to say, I'm a heterosexual man. If I got into trouble and got incarcerated into a male facility, are you telling me, Heather, I can just deviously say, hey, I'm a woman all of a sudden, and I'm here?
Yes, you could. You could identify as a woman and then apply for a transfer. Transgender men, so those are females that transition to be men, they are denied transfer due to overriding health and safety concerns because they'll be raped in a men's institution. But that same courtesy isn't extended. So they're not even considering that we'll be raped here. They just get the entitlement of transgender status, they get to apply for transfer, and there's no scrutiny to it.
I can't believe what I'm hearing, and yet when you stand up to this madness, and that's what I think this is, Heather, you are, I would imagine, and I'll be labeled this too, a transphobe, that you cannot say anything wrong, and yet all those dangerous male offenders are suddenly identifying as female. The very fact that they're dangerous offenders mean they don't play by the rules. Why doesn't Correctional Service of Canada think that maybe these are people that are, like I said before, gaming the system? They're trying to get into an environment with vulnerable women. I mean, who could possibly support this?
It blows my mind because there is documented proof of them gaming the system, especially Stephen Melbacher. So he was in a men's institution for 2 decades, and then while he was out, he ended up getting revoked on his parole, started identifying as a woman, transferred into a woman's institution. He was in Fraser Valley. There was stuff that went on there. He got transferred to Edmonton. They involuntarily transferred him to Grand Valley. He continued his shenanigans. Now he's on criminal charges for sexual assault and harassment, and he has an upcoming trial in the fall of this year.
But you know, Heather, that's a lie, I'm sorry to say. Trans women are real women. We just, for example, published a book about transgenderism in sport. And despite the discipline, whether it's cycling, weightlifting, mixed martial arts, you have men now identifying as women cleaning the floor with their opponents, and with good reason. That more muscle mass, greater respiratory, systems. Twas ever thus that we always segregated male and female sport, with the exception of equestrian and auto racing, the horse and the car being the difference. So how can they possibly chant trans women are real women when we know by looking at elite sports that isn't the case?
Well, and it's same when we start looking at the stats. Who is more involved with sex crimes and violent crimes? And we have for history, it shows the same, right? And looking at the dangerous offender numbers. So all that information in the stats are there. They're just blatantly ignoring it now. Yeah. And there's actually nothing to prove that trans women are women. And that if they identify as women, that means that they still have the same criminal patterns and behavior, offending style as actual females. It all blows my mind. I don't get it.
Hi there. How you doing?
I'm good. There was an understanding that the protest would be on the side of the...
Oh, I'm not a protester, ma'am. I'm David Menzies with Rebel News. Say, how many males pretending to be females do you have in this institution?
I have no response.
You have no response? What do you think about women, real biological women like you two, who are at risk?
On the sidewalk, please, sir. It's fine. You can talk all you want on the sidewalk. And
what harm are we doing here on this
private property?
Okay, then. Well, we're not springing out anyone, but why don't you have anything to say about male males falsely passing themselves off as females and engendering real women like you two.
Comment, sir.
No comment.
No comment. Why can't you comment on that? I mean, you are with this institution, are you not?
If you could go to the side of the institute on the curbside, that would be great.
Is the reason for no comment is that if you speak out against transgenderism, will you be fired or disciplined? Is that why you won't comment? No
Thank
comment.
you for your...
Do you not think that this is an egregious thing against the health and safety rights of women in this institution?
No comment, sir.
No comment?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry to see real women like yourselves throw women inmates under the bus because of males pretending to be females.
Like I said, sir, their agreement was for the protest to be on the curbside. This is Federal Reserve now.
Okay.
You're in Federal Reserve.
Okay.
So if you could go on the side of the curb, that would be great.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you're going to phone the police and charge me, I hereby identify as a female, so I want to be incarcerated in there. What do you think about that?
No comment.
No comment.
I'm honestly transgender myself, and I was put in jail here in GVI and personally experienced watching the victimization of others, and it was not fun to watch or see. Being transgender myself, it actually hurts watching them fake it through all the turmoil I've been through as transgender myself. And I believe that faking transgender just to be where you want to be, where your victim pool is wrong.
Well, I'm with Madeline Riversong. She is the head of We the Females. And first of all, Madeline, let me ask you about your organization. What does that mean, We the Females?
Well, it's an organization to recover the sex-based rights of women in Canada since Bill C-16 ruined our safe spaces and our protections.
And this is going back to what year exactly?
2016, Bill C-16, Trudeau pushed it through. He's really good at pushing through bad legislation. Didn't listen to anybody who was saying this is a bad idea for women. It basically brings gender self-ID to Canada. Other countries have some kind of a check and balance system for males who want to live as women. We have no problem with men dressing as they wish and living as women. However, we are women, and we have to recover our sex-based rights. That includes the people behind the fence at this prison are being subjected to males who are using this loophole to say they are women. These men have convictions of sexual assault. They're violent men. They are being housed with women, and you have to understand that a woman's prison is very different from a man's prison, because this prison was built for women in thinking of their actual needs. It's a house, and so there's 6 bedrooms. So when you put a man who says he's a woman and is often faking it into a house with women, there's all kinds of problems. There's sexual assaults, there's violence, there's pregnancies. Just listen to we have a number of former prisoners from this institution here, and they will corroborate all of that. Basically, our government is hiding a dirty secret. They don't want to say, hey, we were wrong. We really should be able to define a woman in this country. Yes. And sure, let trans people live the way they want. However, you can't just throw women under the bus and say we are not a biological reality. We have sex-based rights and vulnerabilities built in, and that needs to be protected. Doesn't matter that we're 50% of the population.
100%. Madeline, you said something very important, I think. This policy of males going into female penitentiaries, this is something that came out of the Justin Trudeau Liberals regime, and yet Justin Trudeau, he self-identifies as a feminist. I would argue a lot of his behavior suggests otherwise.
And again, I am confident that I did not act inappropriately.
But why would a feminist Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, sign off on a policy in which females are being put at risk by males in female institutions? This does not make sense to me.
Well, it doesn't make sense to us either. Justin Trudeau is a fake feminist. He'll do anything to get political points, and right now he's pandering to lobby groups, and those are powerful lobby groups. We don't understand why he threw us under the bus. In 2016, he passed this legislation. In 2017, he was at one of his dramatic town hall meetings, and remember, he is a drama teacher, And somebody asked a question. They said,
Will you do your best to ensure that trans women are put in prison or prison more appropriate to their gender identity?
The answer is yes. I will ensure that. I'll admit I consider myself to be a fairly strong advocate for LGBTQ2 issues and fairly aware of all the different pressures, and this wasn't one that I had ever thought of.
the next day it was policy. And
Unbelievable.
that is how much consideration women got. That's how many studies were done on how this would impact women. So obviously there's a lot to cover up because he didn't really think that through or use the democratic process. He is just pushing through really bad legislation very quickly in the middle of the night, and a number of really bad legislations. Basically, he's becoming a dictator. We have got to recover our democratic rights in Canada.
Madeline, why is it we live in a day and age today in which radical transgenderism moves the policy needles? I mean, you speak out against this and you are labeled a transphobe. You told me off camera you've had counter demonstrators come to previous protests saying all kinds of hateful, vile things at you. How is it that society, the people making the laws, making the policies, are so beholden to radical transgender people?
I would really like to know that. And if anybody wants to see our video on YouTube, We the Females, of the Megan Murphy situation we went through in October 2019.
Oh, I was there.
Women were just trying to go listen to a woman talk. There were 100 peaceful women and 700 violent men, mostly men, not all men, but violent men holding these love signs and telling us to go die in a grease fire, go home and bleed out on your floor. They wanted us to die. And they're holding love and inclusion and rainbow signs.
And you know what? I think you're onto something here. I have met a significant number of male to female trans males, and when you engage in a conversation, it seems that at the end of the day, these are misogynists. These are men that are envious of women, that are resentful of women. And if you are a misogynist, what better place, if you are incarcerated, than to be transferred to a female institution so you can carry on your campaign of hate? But it seems that our authorities, they're more concerned with not hurting someone's feelings, even someone scamming the system.
Well, absolutely. And we're not against transgender people. And if you look over, I've got a transgender person there saying, I'm transgender, got a rainbow flag, but I'm not faking it. And so it's just an acknowledgement that some people are abusing the system. And we don't have anything in place to care for women that are being locked in with people who have violent sexual assault histories. And our government is thinking, Exactly what you said. Oh, you just made a human rights claim, so I have to listen to you. And we have to have a dialogue about the nuances of human rights. We have gotten to this place in human rights where it's almost like trying to feel on top with your human right, your victimization. It's in a way of like privileging yourself to say, I should be listened to, and you need to follow everything I want and do because I'm in this 1%. No. Most trans women have all their parts intact. All of them. They can even have like a nice beard going, they've got their penis, they're walking into our spaces. Like, at some point you have to say, obviously some of these people are just milking the system to get with women and in vulnerable places. And it's not just women, it's like, think about girls. Think about your daughter showering in the public pool and some guy comes in, he's got a beard and a penis and he showers beside her and he says, hey, I'm a woman. Are they really going to support this? This is madness. Women are often behind the bars because of sexual assault in their history, and being drug mules for men. And part of their recovery process is to learn to be assertive and to learn to say no and to learn to be stand for themselves and not see themselves as the property of a man. And then the federal government throws men in here, says they're women, and says, if you object to this, you're a bigot.
Surreal.
It's completely abusive.
The other thing too, Madeline, is I notice the media party is kind of sitting this one out. And you told me a fascinating story off camera about a local paper here that was covering or at least publicizing your protest. And what happened?
Well, we were really pleased because we got some news coverage. And the one thing to remember is that the media is complicit. They're not touching this one, particularly because CBC is funded $1 billion a year.
More than that.
Yeah, maybe. And so you see they're kind of owned by the government, so they're part of the cover-up. So we were really pleased that Kitchener Today did an article. The journalist interviewed Heather, found out about what's going on behind the wall, because so many people have no idea what's happening since there's a cover-up. So we were really pleased Kitchener Today put that article in after, I think it was our second protest in March. It was in March. And the activists complained, felt like their feelings were hurt, and Kitchener Today withdrew the article and apologized.
Unbelievable. Can you imagine, folks? Kitchener Today actually, they canceled themselves based on some whining from trans activists. Hey, I don't know anyone who's at Kitchener Today, but as the saying goes, why don't you grow a set?
Hi there.
So I was just called by the person that's manager here, and they know you were coming. You had a conversation with them. There was a small complaint that someone with a camera and a microphone might have gone onto the property. So their concern is the privacy of the people inside the institution. No problem with everybody being here. You have the right to do what you're doing here, but they just ask that nobody actually go onto the property, if that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
Say, officer, if I can, I'm David Menzies with Rebel News. What do you think about biological males being put in the same penal institution as biological females?
Unfortunately, you're going to have to phone headquarters and talk to the media relations department. So
you don't have an opinion on that yourself, sir?
I can't give you an opinion, but the media relations department can certainly help you with that.
It's for one last thing. If I do get arrested for trespassing, I want to declare to you, Officer Hand, that I right now identify as a female, and if I'm found guilty, I want to be incarcerated in that building. Is that okay?
Well, this is a federal prison, sir, and nobody said anything about getting arrested today.
Okay, but if I do, I want to be known as a female as of this moment.
Sir, you have the right to do whatever you want.
Apparently so. So yet again, folks, when it comes to this perverse idea of putting biological males in the same penal institutions as females, I think it is another victory for the tyranny of the minority. And in this case, it is the radical transgender activists. But what's even more disturbing is the fact that those in authority think this is a good idea somehow, including the man in charge himself, Justin Trudeau. But then again, when you think of it, does Justin Trudeau, the fake feminist, really give a rodent's rectum about real women? For Rebel News, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Well, folks, you probably heard the news by now. YouTube is undoubtedly coming to kill us. They have completely demonetized us. The other day, they gave us a strike for no good reason whatsoever. So please, we want you to stay in touch with Rebel News. Go to rebelnews.com. That's rebelnews.com. We need some of your personal information, such as your email or cell phone number. Trust me, we don't share that with anyone, but we want to remain relevant to you, and we can't depend on YouTube any longer.